All right, guys. Chalo. Now see, the next topic that we're going to start is evolution of economic school of thought. Now what do we mean by this evolution of economic school of thought? See, at every time period, there are certain economic philosophies that influence the politics, and then that politics influences economics. That is how both influence each other. This is hard to say which influences the other first, but at the end of the day, both have a feedback mechanism. So for example, if you would be paying attention to the headlines, if you would be paying attention to the headlines, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मैडम. If you would be paying attention to the headlines, you would have seen कि भाई when Trump has come, make America great again, and then they are talking about inward looking something inward looking something protectionism, correct? एकता क्लास नोट्स विल यू डिक्टेट और पीडीएफ दोनों देगा मैं, यहां भी लिखेगा और डिक्टेट भी कराएगा. लिखना जरूरी है, बैठ के बस प्रवचन मत सुनना. अब देखो, सो व्हेन द पीपल आर टॉकिंग अबाउट प्रोटेक्शनिज्म, ओके, जैसे प्रोटेक्शनिज्म, व्हाट इज दिस प्रोटेक्शनिज्म? प्रोटेक्शनिज्म इज cutting yourself a little off. That is also an economic philosophy. That is also an economic philosophy. Where has it come? All of them have evolved over a period of time. For example, when COVID struck, US, UK, etc., all of them printed huge amount of money. All of them printed huge amount of money. But did India do the same? India did not do the same. Which means India followed some different philosophy. India followed some different philosophy. That is the point of inquiry for the next 1.5 hours. Okay, that is the point of inquiry for the next 1.5 hours as to what are these different economic philosophies. And we will not go school by school. We have tailor-made the academics to suit our UPSC requirements. Okay, so हम लोग जो जैसा कॉलेज में होता है one by one, we will not go according to that. We have tailor-made it to suit our requirements, because we don't need to go into the names. But still we will go after few names. Why? कभी-कभी they ask this in personality test. Fair enough? Kunal, protectionism refers to the policy. हाँ, very good. चलो, next देखो. Let's see how have these policies evolved. You must have heard the name of a gentleman, Adam Smith. Everybody must have heard about this gentleman called as Adam Smith. This fellow, Adam Smith, who came in 1700s, he is considered as the father of classical economics, and this is where you guys often make a mistake. Father of economics. So did before 1700s there did not used to exist any economy? There was no trade. There was no exchange of goods and services. Got the question? There must have been some form of economic system that must be existing. There must be some form of economic system that must be existing. So before we get to know what changed, we need to know what existed. Okay, before we get to know what changed, because Adam Smith has been said, or he has been characterized to say that he revolutionized the economic thought, which is why he is called as father of classical economics. Clear till here? So before knowing what changed, let's spend some time in understanding what existed. तभी तो पता चलेगा change क्या हुआ. Fair enough? Now see. So before this, what existed was, इसमें color भी तो change होता होगा. Okay. जाइए मजा लीजिए एंजॉय. हाँ आगे मेरे को. Before the 1700s, feudalism you would have heard as a political system, but it was also an economic system. How did this economic system used to work? Okay, now see, any economy has to make answer to three important questions. An economy has to answer three important questions. What are those three important questions? First of all, what to produce, how to produce, and we can modify the other is to how to distribute the surplus, which means what is surplus? Surplus is essentially the profit. Okay, surplus is essentially the profit. How is that profit getting distributed? If you would pay attention, if you would pay close attention, it is on the third point. How is this surplus getting distributed that capitalism and socialism differ? Yes? No? Fair enough? We'll talk about that also. But I think capitalism and socialism will be able to come only tomorrow. Today let's focus on this chapter. Now see. So let's see what are those three questions. Please write down the first one. What to produce? What to produce? Second question, how to produce? And third, how to distribute surplus. How to distribute the surplus. Now see, to understand the answers to these questions, you need to understand what was the political setup during this time. Now during this time, every area was under a feudal lord. Feudal lord, you can understand that local Bahubali. So every area will have one person who will have all the control over the resources in that area. And that person will decide what to produce, how to produce, and how to distribute the surplus. Is it clear till here? So the first characteristic that existed was what? Was the decision making centralized or decentralized? Centralized. Who is taking that decision? Feudal lord. Okay, who's taking that decision? Feudal lord. So please write down first A, centralized decision making. Sir, before feudalism, shouldn't there be primitive stage? Hunting and gathering took with barter exchange. हाँ, लेकिन फिर उतना पुराना जाना नहीं है कुणाल. We have to just, the point of inquiry is to study the Adam Smith and what Adam Smith changed. Okay, barter system, that all we'll talk in this thing, money and banking. Barter system, slip system, how has the money evolved, how did these checks and demand drafts come, we'll discuss all of that. Okay, Kunal? लिख लिया guys. Centralized system, in bracket write down, since all decisions taken by the feudal lord. centralized system, since all the decisions taken by the feudal laws. Centralized system, since all the decisions were taken by feudal law. अब देखो, then let's see view on resources. What was the view on resources? What was this view on resources? अब देखो, there are multiple ways how you can look at resources. There are multiple ways how you can look at resources. For example, the most common way that these resources get looked upon the most common way in which these resources get looked upon is a parochial view in which we think that the resources are limited. In which we think that the resources are limited. If you would analyze the arguments against the population explosion, against immigration, what is the argument given? That the resources are limited. And that was the view held even at this time. Okay, that was the view held at even this time. And what was this view? That limited. Since they are limited, that is why what will start? There will be a competition to gather as many resources as possible. And that will eventually lead to competition in territories and eventually translate in this imperialism will translate into colonialism. Okay, this imperialism will translate into colonialism. Imperialism, I hope you understand, imperialism is political conquest. Okay, imperialism is political conquest. So, for example, these Mughals or Marathas, they were imperialist. We don't call them colonialist. We call British as colonialist. Did you understand the difference, guys? That is the difference. They were imperialist. This is the difference between imperialism and colonialism. Fair enough? Then see. So, please write down limited. Therefore, or equal to race for resource accumulation. Race for resource accumulation. Race for resource accumulation. Guys, I am not giving very detailed notes on this one because again this is for your own understanding, but questions nahi puchegi, isliye I am not giving a very detailed. In those questions in those topics which are directly related to our preparation, I will give detailed notes in that. Okay, isme I am just giving running notes so that you have better understanding. Fair enough? Chalo. Difference between colonialism and imperialism. Colonialism is more economic in nature. Sai Saujanya. Colonialism is more economic in nature and imperialism is more political in nature. For example, Mughals, Marathas, or you take any kingdom prior to the British, they were imperialist. Why? Because they were not interested in changing the economic system of the places they are conquering. They were only bothered with conquering those places and extracting revenue. Colonialists or the Britishers wanted to change the economic system of any places that they were conquering, and colonialism can only happen after imperialism has happened. That is why colonialism succeeds imperialism. Little here. हाँ ये ना बोल दे, सब घूर रहे हैं. अच्छा ठीक. Now see. So this is the view on resources. Okay, this was the view on resources, and that is why this will lead to the competition of resources. यहाँ तक clear है? Now see. View on how economy works. View on how economy works. View on how economy works. Still writing anyone? Chalo. View on how economy works. Now see, GDP, what is the, I don't expect you guys to know, but I understand that some of you must have heard or read about it someplace or the other. So I'm not expecting a very detailed definition, but have you heard about this term? Yes. GDP? Can anybody tell me what it means? Even if it is wrong, it's perfectly fine. Anyway, we have not covered in the class. हाथ उठाया था, फुल फॉर्म बता दिया. हाँ, तू बता. The value of final goods and services produced. What is the keyword here? Produced. Right now, this definition doesn't exist. Right now, this definition doesn't exist because the focus was on trading. The focus was not on production. The focus was on trading. The focus was not on production. That is why Britishers came to India as traders. The factories that they set up, what were they? Were they production facilities? They were warehouses. समझ में आया? What did I tell here? That is why, because till 1700s, the focus was on trading. The focus was not on production, which is why, if you remember, that is why advent of Adam Smith is important. Why? Because he is going to challenge these notions, and that is why, भाई अब किसी ने idea दिया है 1700s, it takes a little time to go for that idea to catch hold, which is why you will see around 1800s telecom, railway. Why? Because now what will become important? Production will become important. Clear till here, guys? Now see, so please do write down how view on how economy works. जी मैडम, without production. Correct. A very good question is there कि भाई, if you won't produce anything, how will you trade? If you won't produce anything, how will you trade? We are talking about more emphasis. Okay, we are talking about more emphasis. More emphasis should be given on production as a whole or trading as a whole. So, for example, currently you are studying more economy. Does it mean polity, geography, all those subjects you are not at all touching? But it cannot be assumed that all those subjects don't exist. They exist, but more focus is on trading. Currently, more focus is on trading. So, government or the people at the helm of affairs, they are not much bothered about production. They are more bothered about trading. इसीलिए slave trade था. Obviously, produce तो नहीं कर सकते, but in either case. Got it till here, guys? But clear? Now see. अब देखो, have you written this? View on how an economy works? The focus. अच्छा, have you written anything? नहीं. Please write down. They focused on trading. They focused on trading. In bracket, write down. Not production. Not production. And just so that you remember this concept, please write down. For example, just so that you remember this concept, please write down. For example, Britishers came as traders, and even their factories, and even their factories, and even their factories were not production centers. Rather, warehouses. And even their factories were not production centers, comma, rather warehouses. Later here, guys. Next, write down D. View on humans. Humans. View on humans is also very, very important. Why? Because depending upon how you view the humans will define how free or rigid is your system. For example, if you have full faith in your maid or cook, you will give them full liberty. But if you don't have any faith, you would not give them full liberty to work because you doubt their capacity to produce the requisite services. You doubt their capacity to produce the requisite services. Similarly, if we doubt that humans cannot work together for a common cause, how will we make them work towards a common cause? Through the use of force. मार के उसका प्यार से बोलते हैं through the use of force. Through the use of force, or we will be more dictatorial in our approach. Question, the answer is clear, guys. Similarly, if we think that the humans are more responsible, they would be given more liberty. Clear till here? Lakshmi, I'll answer your question in a minute, okay? Let me complete this concept. They'll be given more liberty. Capitalism believes in humans being free, or humans need to be dictated? Free. Because it believes in which type of market? Free market. समझ में आया? What it will here? See, you have to pick up these concepts from the basic. Unless you pick up these concepts from the basic, आपसे if anybody asks you about capitalism, sir, profit, और कुछ बताओ? Capitalism, sir, inequality, so much inequality. Like Cuba is flourishing, socialist economy. Cuba, Venezuela, they are flourishing economies. Socialist economy is struggling. But except for profit sharing, profit pocketing, inequality, you would not be able to tell me 50 words on capitalism. If I just ask you to write 10 words as an adjective to capitalism, words, not sentences, you would struggle. And this is where the approach comes in your essays also. Essay में ये वाली approach काम आएगी. In your essays, this approach is going to help you because you have to pick up something from the basics. And from basics, obviously, you need to have a good foundation, but you also need to build a good building. Okay? And that will happen over a course of time with your practice and everything. But I hope it is clear till here, guys. Chalo. Did mercantilism turn into colonialism and to capitalism? Mercantilism, yes, Lakshmi, that can be said. That mercantilism somehow turned into colonialism because mercantilism is this part, although we will deal with that also. Mercantilism means that the state is directly getting involved in the economic activities. and that is somehow different from socialism, because even in socialism it gets directly involved. Okay, we'll deal with that in 1 to 2 classes. This should be clear. Let us discuss capitalism and socialism, not now, but in 1 to 2 classes. By tomorrow, capitalism and socialism, all this will be clear. Okay, so any doubt till here, guys? So then see, so this was the view before the advent of Adam Smith. Okay, this was the view before the advent of Adam Smith. Now let us see when Adam Smith comes. What does he say? And a lot changes, and not much of it changes immediately. For example, law of demand and supply. You must have heard. I am not asking the law. Okay, law of demand and supply. You must have heard. When did it come? (1898). कांग्रेस ज्यादा पुरानी है. 1898 comes law of demand and supply, which means even after the advent of Adam Smith, this subject took its time, around 200 odd years, to evolve into law of demand and supply. Got it till here, guys? That is why it is important to understand these from the basics. Try to understand how these things have evolved. Clear till here? Now see. Let's see how does Adam Smith intend on answering this. Just write down Adam Smith. We're talking about 1700s to roughly 1900s, okay? 1700s to roughly 1900s. If at all you need the timeline, we're talking about 1700s to roughly 1900s. 1700s to roughly 1900s. Adam Smith is characterized as the father. Adam Smith is characterized as the father of classical school of thought. Classical school of economic thought. लिख लो. Classical school of economic thought. Sometimes feudalism is also called as mercantilism, but we will not get into that. Okay? Classical school of economic thought. He is accredited. He is accredited with revolutionizing the economic thought of the time. The economic thought of the time. The economic thought of the time. Next point. Heading दे दीजिए बस, characteristics. Let's now compare these two characteristics. Okay, let's compare the characteristics between this and that. This characterization we will do only for these two, but don't worry, we will not do it for every school of thought. So first of all, again, you must have heard something about invisible hand of the market. Okay, invisible hand of the market. What does this invisible hand of the market mean? What does this invisible hand of the market mean? I hope the question is clear. You must have heard something that leave it to the invisible hands of the market. What does this invisible hand of the market mean? Now see, if you would look at the first question that we tried to answer, that what to produce, how to produce, and how to distribute the surplus. What to produce, how to produce, and how to distribute the surplus. Who decided this previously to Adam Smith? The feudal law. Now Adam Smith is coming and he is saying that who should decide? Invisible hand of the market. Invisible hand of the market. Invisible hand of the market. But what comprises of market? In any market there will be buyers and sellers, producers and consumers. Who are these buyers and sellers or producers and consumers? You and I. Correct, Kunal. Who are these producers and consumers? You and I. Which means essentially Adam Smith, what is he telling? Who should take these decisions? People should take these decisions. So is it a centralized system or a decentralized system? Decentralized system. Got it here? That is why US often correlates capitalism with democracy. That is why US often correlates open economy with democracy. In fact, this was the thought when US back in 1980s wanted China to open up. This was a thought back in 1980s when US wanted China to open up, because it thought that if China opens up its economy, it is inevitable that democracy would come. Okay, but that is a different type of model. We will not get into that, at least as of now. But I hope you got the context. Okay, that is why, since it is a decentralized system, that is why it is often, it is not directly correlated. It is not directly correlated, but it is often correlated with democracy. Kunal, globalization is essentially open economy ultra pro max. Okay, so that is the same thing. Clear till here, guys? Have we written this? No. Please write this down. Under this system, the characteristics, first characteristic. Okay, first characteristics of the classical school of economic thought. Okay, first characteristic of classical school of economic thought. Please write down. Under this system, the key decisions in an economy under this system, the key decisions in an economy, under this system, the key decisions in an economy are left to the market forces, are left to the market forces, are left to the market forces, are left to the market forces. That is, it is said, that is, it is said that let, that is, it is said that let the invisible hand of the market, please underline these words, invisible hand of the market. Please underline this word, invisible hand of the market. Let the invisible hand of the market decide these questions. Decide these questions. Full stop. The state, I hope you know that we call it with respect to the government also, central government. So for example, prior to this, feudal lord can also be characterized as part of state. Got it till here? Please write down. The state has minimal, the state has minimal role. Bhukho, ROLE. The state has minimal role in the state has minimal role in economic decisions. Minimal or no role in economic decisions. That is why, guys, which school of thought will this give rise to? Free market economy. Okay? Capitalism, you said? Kuch nahi bola tha. Mat bol. So this will give rise to which type of market economy? This will give rise to free market economy. Next, write down in this point only. Such type of economy is also called as laissez-faire. अब देखो, this is pronounced as laissez. You can pronounce it as you like. Laissez, laissez, laissez-faire. It is up to you. Your pronunciation does not matter. Okay, your pronunciation does not matter as long as you are writing the right spelling. Why? Because in mains you have any way to write. And in your personality test, they are not testing your accent. Okay, even there, they are testing your overall personality. Even with a broken accent or even with a broken pronunciation, are you able to answer things correctly or not? Because pronunciation, all that is a part of grooming, वो करते करते आ जाता है, ठीक है? So pronunciation जैसा करना है करो, as long as you write the correct spelling. Fair enough? नहीं हटेंगे. Laissez-faire economy. In bracket, do write down. What does these two words mean? Less government. Back. कुत्ता कहाँ दिख गया तेरे को इसमें? Less government. Clear to you guys? Chalo. So laissez-faire means less government. Fair enough? Now see. So this is the first part. What was the second characteristic we discussed? View on resources. View on resources. Now see. Let's see what was the view on resources. Any guesses what is going to be the view on resources? Will they favor trading or will they favor production? And if they are favoring production, we know the answer to the next question, that they are going to favor what? Production. If you will see, we have two consecutive questions. One is the view on resources, other is the view on we have two consecutive questions. One is the view on resources, other is the view on how economy works. Both are interlinked. Okay, both are interlinked. If you think resources are limited, capture them and trade. Capture them and trade. But if you think that the resources are unlimited, you produce what you can produce the best, let me produce what I can produce the best, and then we will trade. And this is what is going to give rise to free international trade, and this is what is going to give rise to something called as competitive advantage, the theory of competitive advantage. And what is that theory of competitive advantage? That if everybody is producing what they can produce the cheapest, everybody wins, because the production becomes very, very efficient. Because the production becomes very, very efficient. और efficient production क्या होगा? Efficient production तो वही होगा ना. And efficient production will be that which can give you best quality at cheapest prices, cheapest costs. Got it clear? That is why even the producer will benefit. Why? Because since you can manufacture or produce that cheapest, you produce it. If you will produce, you will get more customers, you will get more clients. But what if you become relaxed? What if you start charging higher amount? Higher amount means production became inefficient. So to bring efficiency, how will efficiency come? Somebody needs to come and compete with this fellow. And that is why they will favor what? Competition in the economy. And that is where free economy needs to be there. Because the system can work only if there is free economy. If only Jio will produce telecom services, it may be good, it may be bad. But the only way to ensure that the services are up to the mark is to ensure it through competition. And for that you need what? Free market. Airtel and all you need, but for that the answer that I'm looking for is you need free market. Clear till here, guys? Now see how much we've written. View on resources. Please write down, guys. They had an expansive. They had what is school of thought? शर्म ना आई तुझे? नाम में कृष्णा है, तुझे शर्म नहीं आई? नाम राम लिख लेता, रामायण खत्म होने के बाद पूछता बताओ मैं कौन? अरे व्हाट इज स्कूल ऑफ थॉट? कैसा सवाल पूछता है रे कृष्णा? हाय रे 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 रे, एक क्लास के बाद पूछ लियो अभी है. व्हाट इज सेकंड कैरेक्टरिस्टिक हेडिंग? व्यू ऑन रिसोर्सेस. व्यू ऑन रिसोर्सेस. चलिए, दे हैड an expansive view of resources, wherein each economy has sufficient for itself as long as they work on the principle of competitive advantage. Please underline these two words, guys. Competitive advantage. They will not ask you these theories, guys. Okay, they will not ask you these theories. You will have to bring in these words in your answers, and that is what we are trying. Okay, वो आपसे theory नहीं पूछेंगे, define theory of competitive advantage. That is not what their question will be, but you will have to show it somehow in your answers. Okay, that is what we are trying to do here. Okay, but in bracket write down just for your own sake. Okay, just for your own sake, because I know the next time you are going to be reading these notes is this week you will be very energetic. हाँ पढ़ेगा मैं एकदम पढ़ेगा, इस बार तो ऐसा पढ़ेगा मैं कि कैसा बताऊं कैसा पढ़ेगा. But after 1 week you and I both know what is going to happen. The energy ठीक है कर लेंगे, कौन सा बहुत जल्दी है. I get the sentiment, okay, and I understand that you are going to reread them probably after 1.5 months or 2 to 3 months. Okay, so I don't trust your memory. तो उसके लिए please just write down short में what do we mean by this competitive advantage. Please write down, guys. It essentially means that we should produce those goods and services that we can produce most efficiently. That we can produce most efficiently. Got it till here, guys? Now see, bracket close. Now see, linked to this is the next one is the view on how economy works. How does economy work? So therefore, economy we will work on trading or production. It will work on production. Okay, it will work on production. Clear till here? Please write this down. The third characteristic, guys. Okay, the third characteristic. Krishna, I hope you are noting this down meanwhile. Kunal, production, correct? Like manufacturing hub China. Fair enough, Krishna. चलो, कुछ doubt होगा बाद में we'll address that. ठीक है? चलो, view on how economy works. Please just write down. They favored production over trading. 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 Okay, just for your reference, please write down in bracket. This is why, just for your reference, so that you remember what we're talking about. This is why around 1800s, we have the Charter Act. I hope you must have heard. I don't expect you to know, but I just expect you guys to have heard something called as Charter Acts, 1813, 1833, 53, and uske pehle there were regulating acts, but not getting into that. So this is why we have Charter Acts giving access of Indian market, to others, thereby ending ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनीज मोनोपोली. ऐसा कुछ सुना है कभी? एंडिंग ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनीज मोनोपोली. बिकॉज इफ ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी हैज अ मोनोपोली, विच प्रिंसिपल वुड हैव गॉटन वायलेटेड? फ्री मार्केट प्रिंसिपल वुड हैव गॉटन वायलेटेड. So you need to understand all these things happen in some context. Okay, all these acts, all the events, they happen in some, and that context is pre-existing. If you know the context, it is easy to remember these things. Okay, if you know the context, it becomes a little easy to remember these things. Fair enough, guys? Chalo. Next, monopoly, bracket close. Next, write down view on humans. धन्यवाद मैडम. View on humans. View on humans. Now see, you must have a little idea about the view on humans. Why? Inquisitively, tell me, will the view be dictatorial or be more free? Free. Because if we don't have faith in the humans, why are we basing it all on free market economy? Got it till here, guys? So please write down. Faith was bestowed. Faith was bestowed on humans. Faith was bestowed on humans, and it was believed that they can work, towards a common public good, or goal, जिसमें भी आप कंफर्टेबल हो. पब्लिक गुड एक टेक्निकल टर्म भी है बाय द वे. ठीक है, पब्लिक गुड्स इज अ टेक्निकल टर्म ऑल्सो, बाद में डील करेंगे. अगर आपको कंफ्यूजन लग रही है, यू राइट पब्लिक गुड. ठीक है, इफ यू थिंक देयर इज अ कंफ्यूजन, वी हैव टू डिस्कस दीज टू वर्ड्स ऑल्सो. व्हाट आर पब्लिक गुड्स, वी हैव टू डिस्कस. Towards public good or goals, comma, through certain inducements. Nahi Kunal, that is not excludable but rivalrous. Non-excludable and non-rivalrous. We'll deal with it, don't worry. Got it till here, guys? Now see. So this is how the characteristics were divided. Through certain. के बाद क्या है guys? इंड्यूसमेंट्स, इंसेंटिव्स, इंसेंटिव्स का अलग इंसेंटिव्स का अलग टर्म भी होता है इंड्यूसमेंट्स। और incentives, inducements or incentives. Now, so this is what was the difference between these two schools of thought. यहां तक क्लियर है गाइस? चलो अब देखो, just write down one more characteristic. Just write down one more characteristic in the classical school. Okay, Adam Smith में एक और characteristic लिख लीजिए. In Adam Smith, please write down one more characteristic. With respect to just one second. क्लास वन शॉट होते हैं ना, बीच में ब्रेक तो नहीं होता? नहीं सर, वन शॉट में. With respect to how much to produce, please put this in inverted commas, how much to produce, with respect to how much to produce, in how much to produce in inverted commas, comma, this school said produce as much as you want, supply will take care of its demand. नहीं छोड़ो, सेज लॉ कहते हैं बट नॉट रेलेवेंट फॉर यू. If at all you want to note, this is something called as Say's law. Unlikely they will ask any law, but ठीक है, अब आ गया तो लिख लो. Unlikely they will ask a law's name. They might ask the concept. What about the free market? Let the people decide. Everything let the people decide. Okay. Even if you will pay some attention here, supply will take care of its own demand. Let people decide amongst themselves. Now see, बात नहीं. कुकर्मी आदमी फर्स्ट बेंच पे है. Now see, so when we talk about this Say's law, statement तो आ गई that produce as much as you want, supply will take care of its own demand. But to be very frank, statement सर के ऊपर से गई. मतलब क्या है इसका? उनके तो अच्छा लगा, but what does this mean? As of now, just hold your horses a little. Okay, since it is a law and since this was given by some great fellows, for 10-15 minutes let's just take a leap of faith कि हाँ, there must be something like this. ऐसा कुछ होता होगा. We'll come back to this. We'll analyze this statement. Okay, we'll come back to this. We'll analyze this statement. But for the next 10, 20 odd minutes, let's just assume ऐसा कुछ होता है. आपकी जिंदगी ही ऐसे जा रही है. 10-15 मिनट में क्या फर्क पड़ जाएगा? ठीक है? So there is something like this happening. Now see. So what does this mean is that during times of crisis, government should do what? During times of crisis, government should do what? What is the school of thought? Classical school of thought. And what do they believe in? Free market. We also call it laissez-faire economy, which means they want more government role or less government role? Less government role. So this school of thought believe that when there is a crisis, what should the government do? Nothing. What should the government do? Nothing. Why? Because let them produce whatever and how much ever they want. Supply will take care of its own demand. And mind you, this is not a theorem, this is not a hypothesis, this is demand and supply ka law hai. Law of demand and supply. That is not a mere hypothesis, that is not a mere theorem. All it till here? So it is a law, which means there must be adequate, correct, Sai Saujanya, very good, inverse relation between supply and its demand. Prakriti, what is this in context to? Got it till here, guys? So this is what we mean, what they meant when they said कि भैया supply will take care of its own demand. Got it till here? So please complete this statement. During times of crisis, comma, government, देखो सुनते होगे गवर्नमेंट, but it is pronounced as government. That याद है government? That meme, apparently that lady at least pronounced it right. It is pronounced as government. आपको गवर्नमेंट बोलना है, आप बोल सकते हैं. You can call it government, but it is usually technically pronounced as government. ठीक है? चलो. So please write down. The government has no role. Government has no role in the economy. हाँ कुणाल भाई वाला. Has no role in the economy. Has no role in the economy. Comma, market will correct itself. Market will correct itself. In bracket write down, market will correct itself. In bracket write down, and after writing this please underline this also, self-correcting nature of the market. Self-correcting nature of the market. सर समझ में नहीं आया लो. हाँ मैंने समझाया भी नहीं है अभी, आ जाएगा थोड़ी देर में समझ में. Got it till here, guys? Self-correcting nature of the market. Please underline this word, self-correcting nature of the market, which means according to this school of thought, 2008 फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस हुआ तो गवर्नमेंट को क्या करना चाहिए? What should the government do? Nothing. Let the market deal. You give free hand to the market, market will self-correct. COVID crisis came. What should the government do? Nothing. The economy will correct itself. Got it till here, guys? Now, so this is what this meant. So just to briefly write it here, during the times of crisis, just to briefly sum up important points which are required for the next one. This is fresh page, guys. Please draw this in the fresh page. Now see, so this classical school of thought, what does it believe in? Laissez-faire state. It believes in laissez-faire state. Laissez-faire means less, correct, less government, plus it believes in self-correcting nature of the market. सेल्फ करेक्टिंग नेचर ऑफ द मार्केट, बेसिक नीड भी प्रोवाइड नहीं करेगी इन द क्राइसिस. एकता will come to this. Kunal will come to that. Self-correcting nature of the market. Clear till here, guys? Next, see. Next, that statement. Supply will create its own demand. And I'm just writing the name so that you remember. किसी का question में था इसलिए. Correct, Shivanand? Now, so this is how this was happening. So far, what is our belief? That if any crisis comes, what should the government do? Nothing. You should just let the market decide whatever it wants. Which meant, guys, is this color visible? Yellow? Sorry, green. Visible? Okay. Online, guys, visible? Fair enough. Now see. Is there a part of the board that is not visible? Okay. किधर से? इधर से? Where I have written supply? उसके नीचे नहीं. Okay. ठीक है, no problem. So I'll erase this. लिख लो. बढ़िया लिखा है ना? नहीं दिख रहा? हाँ, विजिबल है. एक कोना हमें हटा रहे. कर दिया मैंने. नहीं कर लिया. चलो. ब्लैक तो दिख जाएगा. ब्लैक कलर पेन यूज कर लूंगा. नहीं ऐसे भी ठीक है, चल जाएगा. थैंक यू. गाइस, एनीबॉडी स्टिल राइटिंग? जल्दी लिखो, सब घूर रहे हैं. बड़े चिरकुट होते हैं. खुद लिख लेते हैं, फिर हमको घूरते हैं. लिख लिया, आगे पढ़ाओ, आगे. डन. चल. Now see, supply and आगे. Supply will create its own demand. हाँ, thank you so much Farhan, Arjun, Anju, Ravi. Thank you so much, guys. Now, so which meant that whenever there is a crisis, what will the government do? Nothing. Why? Because you let the market correct itself. Self-correcting nature of the market, which means 1914 to 1919, World War I. 1914 to 1919, World War I. If we have to come out of this economic problem, what should the government do? Nothing. What should the government do? Nothing. Why? Because what was our belief? Self-correcting nature of the market. So, what did the government do? Government essentially made it easier for the businesses to function. Okay? Government made it easier. So, any government will anyway not give free hand to anybody. There will always be certain or the other regulations. No economy in today's world can be. इधर देखना, उधर क्या देख रहा है? No economy in the current world can be completely free. No economy in the current world can be completely free. There will be some levels of regulations. Now that depends, are the regulations heavy or are they low? Correct here, guys? Correct. तेरे को आ गया. Now see, so it is in this context that when we thought that we have to revive our economy, which economic school of thought was given preference? Classical economic school of thought. By whom? वो तो मर चुका था वैसे, but हाँ, by whom? By the countries. I get it. You will not be able to answer this. Answer मेरे मन में है ना, बताया नहीं मैंने. So by whom? By the countries. Which all countries? UK, US, France. जर्मनी नहीं था. And if you would remember 1920s में 1918 में रशिया में क्या आ चुका है? Russian Revolution, communism has come. Something related to communism. As of now, I hope you just remember communism does it talk about free market economy? No. इतना तक जानते हो काफी. Details we'll do later. Okay, but as long as you know that it does not talk about free market, it's fine. Communism talks about more government or less government? More government. Communism talks about more government. यहाँ तक clear है? As long as you know this much as of now, that is fine. Obviously, we'll discuss the details, the key differences tomorrow. Now see, so 1920s, in 1919, we wanted to revive the economy. So these countries, UK, France, US, all of these major countries, barring Germany and Russia, they decided that what should they do? Should they intervene in the economy? No, they should not intervene in the economy because of the self-correcting nature of the market. They did not intervene. And the time period from 1920 to about 1928-29, this is the time period called as Roaring Twenties. Why? This is the time period called as Roaring Twenties. Why? Because everybody was roaring. ऐसे पागल की तरह नहीं. Don't judge me. क्या आदमी है ये? Everybody was roaring economically. Within 3 to 4 years, they were of them entering into the job market. They were able to buy cars. They were able to buy houses. This time period, the West saw very rapid growth. Okay, this was the time period that they saw very rapid growth. Yes, majorly Europe. This was the time period that they saw very rapid growth. Got it till here, guys? And that is why this is called as the time of Roaring Twenties. Yahan tak clear hai? But then, from 1929, just write down somewhere. Just write down a note for yourself. How did we recover from? Haji madam. Correct. Correct. State society. वो ये follow नहीं करते हैं. They don't follow this. थोड़ी देर में करते हैं. आ जाएगा. दिल भारी मत करो, आ जाएगा. अपने आप ही मतलब. हाँ एकता, सेल्फ करेक्टिंग अपने आप ही ठीक हो जाएगा. हाँ. अब देखो, प्लीज राइट डाउन. How did we rise above? How did we rise above the economic troubles? How did we rise above the economic troubles posed, P-O-S-E-D, posed after World War I. Posed after World War I. Posed after World War I. Question mark equal to? We believed in self-correcting nature of the market. We believed in the self-correcting nature of the market. We believed in the self-correcting nature of the market. And the countries gave more freedom, and the countries gave more freedom to the private sector. Private sector तो वही होगा ना, free market ही होगा. Correct? Gave more freedom to the प्राइवेट सेक्टर, उसमें जस्ट ब्रैकेट में लिख लीजिए, रशिया डिडंट फॉलो दिस, just write down in the bracket, Russia didn't follow this comma since it was communist. Will not get into the details of this statement as of now. Okay, will not get into the details of this statement as of now. Later we will, obviously, when we'll talk about capitalism and socialism. Russia did not, comma, since it was communist. Since it was communist. Okay. इस स्टेटमेंट की डिटेल वी विल डिस्कस लेटर व्हेन वी विल टॉक अबाउट कैपिटलिज्म एंड सोशलिज्म. एज ऑफ नाउ दिस स्टेटमेंट विल डू. सो व्हेन वी से दैट वी वर फॉलोइंग, वी डोंट मीन एवरी सिंगल कंट्री. एवरी कंट्री विल हैव इट्स ओन मॉडल. एवरी कंट्री विल हैव इट्स ओन सिस्टम और मॉडल टू फेस एनी थ्रेट और चैलेंज. लार्जली वेस्ट ने इसको किया था. और इट विल हियर नाउ सी नाउ 1920s, sir, after freedom to private sector. Just write down in bracket, Amisha, except Russia, comma, since it was communist. Except Russia, since it was communist. Done? Except Russia, since it was communist. All right, Amisha. Now see. So, 1920s was roaring 20s, but then after every good time comes bad time. And then 1929, what happened? The same thing that happens to you daily, the Great Depression. 1929, what happens? The Great Depression, and that was prolonged for around 2 to 3 years. That prolonged for around 2 to 3 years. Again, the people were confused, or not people were not very confused, but again the question posed at them was how to recover from this crisis. How to recover from this crisis. Try to take a wild guess. What did they do? Nothing. What should the government do? Nothing. Market will autocorrect. Okay. We had a belief on the self-correcting nature of the. टाइम देख रहा हूं मैं, तुम परेशान मत हो, 8 बजे छोड़ दूंगा. जैसे मैं इंटरनेट, हाँ अब ठीक है, टाइम देख रहा है ना, खबरदार जो आगे बढ़ा है, गुस्सा हो मत ऐसा. सो मार्केट विल करेक्ट itself. What should the government do? Nothing. And that was the problem. And that is where, and that is where now countries like Hitler's Germany and Russia are going to differentiate themselves from US, UK and France. Got it till here? That is where the differentiation will come. Russia and Hitler के अलग हो जाएंगे and UK, US, France, they will be different because the Great Depression happened in US, UK, France, not in Russia or Hitler's Germany. And that is going to give rise to a huge economic debate as well as to which system is better, capitalism or their socialism. Got the question here? Got the question here till here, guys? That is why, by the way, since they had a belief in self-correcting nature of the market, initially when the crisis struck, nobody did anything, which is why it became prolonged and therefore it became a depression. Got it till here? Then somebody needs to come and save the capitalists. Somebody needs to come. Who is going to come? In 1934, there is a fellow, I'll write that down also, first listen to the concept. In 1934, John Maynard Keynes, okay, he comes up and he publishes his book, okay, he publishes his book, Theory of Inflation and Employment, okay, Growth, Inflation and Employment. And in that, he mentions something called as pump priming. मैं लिखवा देगा, सुन ले पहले. In that he mentions something called as pump priming, and in that he gives the concept that during the time of crisis, Government should put money into the hands of people, even if it means paying them to dig holes and fill them up. And during the time of crisis, government should put money into the hands of people, even if it means to dig holes and fill them up. Now see, one statement we saw here, that supply will create its own demand. Another statement we are seeing that during times of crisis, government should put money into the hands of people, even if it means paying them to dig holes and fill them up. A genuine question should come into your mind. A genuine question should come into your mind, and that is, पागल हैं क्या दोनों? क्या बोल रहे हैं भाई? Got the question at least? Let's just write down this write-up, okay, and then we will analyze these two statements. Okay, then we will analyze these two statements. So let's see how does the story evolve. Let's see how does the story evolve. आवाज आ जाती है, इसे छुप छुप के मत खा, मैं आके ले नहीं लेगा, ऐसे इतनी तेज करें, देख लेगा ले लेगा, खा लिया, गजब कर रहा है। अब देखो, जल्दी खोल ले। Please write this down, guys. Then we have to write that statement. ठीक है, कर दूंगा। निकाली। Done, guys? Still writing, anyone? Still writing, guys, anyone? Sure. So please write down. Please write down, what did Keynes say? Theory of growth, inflation, employment. कर्सिव राइटिंग है पगले, इससे बढ़िया राइटिंग मिलेगी नहीं कहीं। हमको तो ऑफर किया था कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन दोबारा लिख दो, हम कहें नहीं, हमको तथास्तु में बैच लेना है, हम लिखे नहीं कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, तब बताओ, लिखो 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 लिखो. Now see, so please write down. During the time of crisis, during the time of crisis, during the time of crisis, the government, the government should put money, into the hands of people, even if it means paying them, even if it means paying them to dig holes, paying them to dig holes and paying them to dig holes and fill them up, paying them to dig holes and fill them up, paying them to dig holes and fill them up. Clear till here? Let's try to contrast these two statements. Let's try to understand these two statements as to what do they mean when they say that supplying will create its own demand, and the other is that the putting money into the hands of people. By the way, what is this process called? This process is called as pump priming. Anjum? Pump priming. Okay. Oh, दिख नहीं रहा था फिर. This process is called pump priming. Got it here, guys? Now see, let's try to understand what do we mean by this. अब देखो, we are saying that government should put money into the hands of people. पूरा लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. गवर्नमेंट शुड पुट मनी इनटू द हैंड्स ऑफ पीपल. पंप प्राइमिंग, PRIMING, पंप प्राइमिंग. ठीक है, चलो. पंप प्राइमिंग, sorry, government should put money into the hands of people. When the government is putting money into the hands of people, what does this mean? It means people have more disposable income. What does this mean? Therefore, can spend more. When your disposable income, the income that you can spend, increase, that is what we call as increase of disposable income. अब देखो, usually whenever you will get money, चल लिख लो. Guys, I hope online everybody is at the same page. Nobody is lagging behind. Anybody lagging behind in the online? All right, Sai Sojanya. All right, Ekta. All right, Ashfaq. Raga Sugirti, Prakriti. All right, guys. Thank you so much. All right, Anju. All right, Samreen. Chalo. Anybody else, guys, still writing here? Fair enough. All right, Shivanand. Now, can spend more. अब देखो, whenever you get money, there are only two things you can do with that money. जब भी पैसा मिलता है, what do you do with that money? बैठ के चाटते हो? There are two things you can do with that money. Either you will spend or save. And that savings get channelized later into investments. Okay, that savings get channelized into investments. So whenever you get money, what do? Either you will save or spend. If you don't save, if there are not channels where you can save that money, what will you end up doing? Spending that money. Got it till here? Now see. So if the excess money is not saved, it will be spent. If the excess money is not saved, it will be spent. What will this lead to? What will this lead to? This will increase demand in the economy. This will increase demand in the economy or the market. Okay, this will increase demand in the market because demand क्या है? So for example, हो सकता है all of you would have a liking towards buying a Lamborghini. Assume कर लो. I hope you know you don't have that demand when you become an IAS. Otherwise CBI will come. तेरे पास Lamborghini कैसे आई बे? Anyway, even if all of you want to purchase Lamborghini, does that count as demand for Lamborghini?
No.
No. Why? पैसा नहीं है. You don't have the money. It will be counted as a demand only if you have money. That is purchasing power. Okay, it will be counted as demand only if there is purchasing power. Got it till here? So essentially here, what got increased? Purchasing power. Here what got increased? Purchasing power. यहाँ तक clear है guys? Now see. Demand in the economy will go up. Since demand in the economy is going up, inflation will go up. Now before you get all tied up with this term, there are many definitions of inflation, but the most workable definition and the definition that even we will be using it for quite a lot of purposes is too much money chasing too few goods, for example. What did I say? No, not purchasing path, power, Shakti. So, inflation. The easiest way to understand inflation, okay, the easiest way to understand inflation is too much money chasing too few goods. For example, if this pen costs 100 rupees and if all of you have 100 rupees, if this pen costs 100 rupees and all of you have 100 rupees, what will be the cost of this pen? Will it stay at 100 rupees? Will it go lower than 100 rupees or will it increase? Increase. Why? Because too much money chasing too few goods. Too much money chasing too few goods. Essentially understand inflation as too much money chasing too few goods. यहाँ तक clear है? People have this. Immediately people have money in their pocket. But does the production, will the production also increase? Immediately? No. That is why what will happen? Inflation will increase. Got it in here guys? Now see. Since inflation will increase immediately, not after a point of time. We are talking about immediate effects. Okay, we are talking about immediate effects. Inflation will increase. This means profit margins will increase, at least in the short term. Profit margins will increase at least in the short term. Got it till here guys? Now see. Since profit margins will increase, that is why firms would want to produce more or less? More. Zahir si baat hai, if the profit margins are high, firms will want to produce more. Can you also generally increase in prices of goods and decrease in values? Ishika, there are many ways we can characterize inflation. We can characterize, in the inflation chapter, we will give multiple definitions of inflation. But here we have just taken that definition which is workable for us and which will help us solving questions. This definition that you are giving here, सुनने में तो अच्छा लगता है लेकिन एग्जाम में समझ में नहीं आएगा. General increase in prices, decrease in value of money, that's good. I mean, if they ask this question, that's a good introduction that we can write. But workable definition is essentially a small one. Too much money chasing too few goods. But yes, that's essentially what you have said as well. Okay? Chalo. So profit margins will increase. Since profit margins will increase, firms would want to produce more. Firms would want to produce more goods and services. What does this essentially mean? Supply will increase. Supply will increase. Got it till here, guys? Then see. I hope the color is visible, guys. Udhar, here, color is visible. Guys online, color is visible? I think it should be, it's a dark color. Fair enough, guys. Alright, guys. Now see, so supply will increase, but that would mean that they will need more labor. If even Tathastu has to increase its services or open new centers, there will be more labor required. Got it till here? Stop looking at me. हमको लगता ही labor वाला आदमी. Stop looking at me like that. Point being that if the production has to increase, you will need more labor. Got it till here, guys? So you will need more labor, which means what will happen? Employment generation, and eventually what will happen? It means people will have more disposable income. People will make demand in the economy. ये economy का चक्का है. This is the cycle of the economy. Okay, now ab एक minute, just give me your 2 minutes undivided attention here, then I'll give you time to write. Okay, I'll give you time to write. Just 2 minutes undivided attention here. Got it here, guys? So this is the cycle of the economy. This is the cycle of the economy, and this is the demand side of economy, which is what Keynes said, John Maynard Keynes said, and this is supply side of economy, which Adam Smith said. गांव में गए होंगे, if you would have visited your village or somewhere, stop looking at me like that. गांव? What is गांव? Never heard of it. गांव में कभी गए होगे तो एक चक्का सा होता है, ठीक है? There is this wheel that you spin, and that has a lever. Okay, so that lever, this cycle, you can either start from demand side of the economy. You can either pull this lever or you can pull this lever. Supply will create its own demand. Supply will create its own demand. Both of them are talking about reviving the economy. It's just that their point of inquiry or their point of importance is different. One is talking about demand side of the economics, the other is talking about supply side of economics. But essentially economy चलनी है तो ऐसे ही चलनी है. Got it in here, guys? Can you give me an example of one of the schemes regarding pump priming India में? You know it by the way already. मनरेगा, हाँ कौन सी? मनरेगा इज वन ऑफ द स्कीम्स इन विच व्हाट डू दे डू? दे पुट मनी इनटू द हैंड्स ऑफ पीपल. करेक्ट 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 कुणाल, करेक्ट अंजना. गॉट इट टू हियर? एक मिनट यहां तक. और हाँ एक मिनट, आप क्या बोल रहे हो? फिर से रिपीट कर दो, कोई दिक्कत नहीं. इन्फ्लेशन के टाइम पे मनी को इंजेक्ट नहीं किया जाता है, मनी इंजेक्ट होता है तो इन्फ्लेशन आती है. अब बोलिए आगे. जब पीपल, देखो इन्फ्लेशन कैसे भी आ सकता है, ठीक है, हर एक पे आप डाल सकते हो. अब आप कह सकते हो सर सप्लाई लेबर नहीं आ सकता है, क्यों? वॉर चल रहा है. इसमें आप इफ एंड बट्स ला सकते हो, बट लार्जली ऐसे ही चलता है. आप जो कह रहे हो गलत नहीं है, बट अगेन यहां पे हमें फर्स्ट ऑर्डर ऑफ थिंग्स देखना है. इन द फर्स्ट ऑर्डर ऑफ थिंग्स यही होगा. बाकी हाँ उसके बाद बोल दो कि सर लॉकडाउन लगा हुआ है, सप्लाई नहीं लग सकती. लॉकडाउन में तो ये वर्क नहीं करेगा, नहीं करेगा, जनरली वर्क करेगा. ठीक है, जनरली दिस विल वर्क. एंड जनरली इवन इफ द गवर्नमेंट इज प्रिंटिंग द मनी, दिस इज द प्रोसेस दैट दे विल डू. Some money they will give to the consumers, some money they will give to the producers. ठीक है? Anybody else guys? So, anybody still writing? Have you noted it down? ठीक है, कर लो कर लो. ये तू लिख ले, फोटो ना खींच. हाँ. Short term, because in the long term, if something is not done, inflation will again come. कुछ भी हो सकता है. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. Can freebies be? Yes, Samar, it can be considered. Ishika, inflation term is most common in newspaper and often confused. हाँ Ishika, कोई बात नहीं. Not a problem, Ishika, not a problem. I hope this is clear to you now, Ishika. Guys, बात नहीं. Have you done this? Anybody still writing? धन्यवाद सर जी, अत्यंत धन्यवाद आपका. Anybody still writing? चलो, please write down below this. I hope you have drawn these levers also, demand side and the supply side, okay? Please write this down. Therefore, both Adam Smith, as well as एक बार लिख लीजिए, उसके बाद मैं डायग्राम बनाने का टाइम दे दूंगा. ठीक है, एक बार लिख लीजिए इसको. बोथ एडम स्मिथ एज वेल एज केन्स वर टॉकिंग अबाउट reviving the economy. We're talking about reviving the economy. Full stop. One emphasized more on the demand side. Who emphasized more on demand side, guys? Keynes. One emphasized more on demand side. In bracket write down Keynes. John Maynard Keynes. Bracket close, comma, whereas the other focused more on supply side economics. In bracket write down who focused more on supply side. Adam Smith and Say's law भी यही कहता है. Okay. In bracket write down Adam Smith, comma Say's law. Because even Say's law says what? Supply will create its own demand. Supply will create its own demand. Got it till here, guys? So that is what these two. That is how these two schools of thoughts are related. As at the end of the day, they talk about the same process. Just that their point of inquiry or point of emphasis is a little different. Got it till here, guys? Now see. Any doubt? अब देखो, guys, online have you is everybody on the same page or is anybody lagging behind? Copy, done. Okay, guys, chalo. However, if you will notice one thing, guys, we have written it short term. At the same time, if you would revisit the whole statement that Keynes gave, what are the first 4 to 5 words? Read it from your notes. What are the first 4 or 5 words that Keynes gave? During the time of crisis, which means Manrega should ideally be resorted during the time of crisis, not all the time, not prolonged usage. Because if you simply keep on printing money, what will happen? Inflation. What will happen? Inflation. Got it till here? But Keynes was a Nobel laureate. Keynes was a Nobel laureate. Keynes was a Nobel laureate. I hope you understand the political implications that yes, any government, any democratic government would love this philosophy that yes, you just print money and you distribute among people and they'll give you your vote. Any government would love this philosophy. But this would create certain problems. This would create certain problems. Got it till here? So there must be some view of Keynes on the same. भैया नोबेल लॉरिएट थे, पढ़े लिखा आदमी था. If we know this sitting in this classroom, he must have known this. That is why even his book name contains the word what? Inflation. That is why even his book contains the word what? Inflation. By the way, Adam Smith, what was the name of the book written by Adam Smith? Wealth of Nations. Can you guess why? Wealth of Nations. You often miss on the complete name of this book. The complete name of the book was An Inquiry into the Nature, yes, and Causes of Wealth of Nation. Why is the name Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of Wealth of Nation? Because he fundamentally challenged what? कि भैया nature should be in production rather than trading. Human rather than restricting them will cause your growth. Your real wealth of nation is in production and it is not in trading. याद है थोड़ी देर पहले किया था गजनियों. So real wealth of a nation lies in production, not ट्रेडिंग. इन सारे इन कुछ के बुकों के नाम के काफी सिग्निफिकेंस है, लेकिन सबके बुक के नाम के कुछ सिग्निफिकेंस है. Got it clear, guys? That is why he named his पूरा नाम. You don't need to know, obviously पूछेगा भी नहीं कहीं पे, they'll not ask, but आपको समझ में आना चाहिए. You should at least understand why is it what they wrote. Clear till here, guys? चलो हाँ, next लिखो. Let's write down what the problem of inflation and let's try to understand what did Keynes suggest. Okay, what did Keynes suggest that we do regarding this? Please write down. Next point, write down. Next point, write down. However, prolonged pump priming. However, prolonged pump priming. However, prolonged pump priming would sometime lead to inflation. Would sometime lead to inflation. Better hota some or the other time, but it's fine. Would sometime lead to inflation. Would sometime lead to inflation. Got it till here? Same question was posed to even John Maynard Keynes. Let's see how did he answer that. John Maynard Keynes. Somebody comes up to, hey Keynes. क्या है? Hey, inflation आ गया. Inflation came. हाँ. एक मिनट. Is there full employment in the economy? नहीं, गरीब पड़े हुए हैं. There are unemployed people. हाँ, then it's not a problem. Right? What did Keynes say? Keynes said that inflation in an economy is not a problem till there is not full employment. Not full employment. Full employment तो अच्छा होता था ना. Full employment was something good. But this fellow is saying that if there is not full employment, inflation, no problem with inflation. Did you understand the question? Okay, just write down this statement. Write down the statement next. However, according to Keynes, we will write this question and we will understand also these statements. These statements will help us in some or the other way in solving the questions also. Okay? I hope these concepts are becoming a little clear. Obviously not crystal clear, because just the first class, I can't expect magic from you, even though I teach really good. but at least I am expecting at least 50% of the class, if you are able to understand, is perfectly fine. Okay? And rest, revise and do it from the standard book and all. Okay? However, according to Keynes, inflation is not a problem as long as inflation is not a problem as long as there is not full employment in the economy. There is not full employment in the economy. हाँ, शुभ्रांजलि में रील्स भी बनाता है, रात में जाएगा मैं ऐसे नाचेगा ऊ करके. There is not full employment in the economy. There is not full employment in the economy. तेरे को देखने की जरूरत भी नहीं है. चल. Got it clear, guys? There is not full employment in the economy. अब देखो इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? What does this mean? As long as there is not full employment in the economy, it means that whenever the firms want to hire more labor, they can get these laborers cheaply. And as long as they can get these laborers cheaply, wages and all will not rise. Because if the laborers are not cheap, it means wages will have to rise. Profit margin क्या होगा? Shrink. Profit margin will shrink because input cost increased immediately. Then input cost will also increase immediately in the short term only. That is why the profit margins would decrease or shrink. And that is why this system would not work. Got it till here? So, as long as people are preparing for UPSC, inflation is not a problem in India. Got it till here, guys? So that is what he meant, that inflation is not a problem as long as there is not full employment. Okay? This concept, let's just write down in short. We'll write down this full employment wala concept in short. Okay? Please write down. If there is full employment equal to, if there is full employment, if there is full employment equal to, labor will be costly, equal to labor will be costly. I hope you got this point, right? If there is full employment, labor will be costly. Because if you already have a job, why would you be ready to work at a lower wage? Okay, if you already have a job, why would you be ready to work at a lower wage? You would obviously demand higher wage. Got it till here? Huh. Largely, yes. Yes, largely. Obviously, there is a percentage that we need to look at, but largely that is what it means. 100 out of 100 will never be there. Okay. Got it till here, guys? What have you written?
If there's full employment equal to
labor will be costly, equal to input costs of a firm, equal to input costs of a firm would increase even in the short term. Input costs of a firm would increase even in the short term. Short term, full equal to the virtuous economic cycle. The virtuous economic cycle would get disrupted. Would get disrupted. The virtuous economic cycle है अभी टाइम 15 मिनट. The virtuous economic cycle would get disrupted. The virtuous economic cycle would get disrupted. Got it till here, guys? Now see. So this is what we meant through this. Clear till here? So what happened now? That they are not bothering about inflation. They are not bothering about inflation. Let's see how does this story progress. So Keynesian school of thought, they are not worrying about inflation. अब देखो till 1920s to 1970s, what did Keynes say? Keynes said that inflation is not a problem until there is full employment. Until there is full employment. This is what was said by Keynes. This is what was said by Keynes, but still by 1970s, again we started facing crisis. 1970s, we again started facing crisis, especially after the oil embargo by OPEC. Something had happened, okay, so Israel and Arab war had happened and US or the West sided with Israel, okay, and as a retaliatory effort or retaliatory step, the OPEC, I hope you know what are OPEC. It is essentially these oil producing companies of the Gulf, okay, Persian Gulf and all of that region, okay. So these are the oil producing companies. They collectively have formed a cartel and they decide the oil prices in the global market. And they definitely influence it. Okay, there are other factors as well, but they definitely have a quite of influence in the market. So they increased the cost of oil by 100% within a few months, which means within a few months the prices of oil doubled. Within a few months the prices of oil doubled. सोचो जो 100 रुपए का तेल अभी मिल रहा था, 100 rupee per liter fuel that we get as of now gets 200 rupee per liter within 6-7 months. Huge problem. Huge problem. Got it till here? Similarly, it became a problem here. Now, one thing should come to your mind. How is this oil so important? Why is it that they can construct any economy with the help of this one thing, that is oil? अरे सिर्फ गाड़ियों में तो लगता है we are using it as a fuel only. Why is it that we need oil? Got the question, guys? I don't expect you to know the answer as long as you are with me in the question. Got the question? So now, what is the question that they are asking is that why is the oil so important? It is important because oil is almost used in every other industry. In every other industry, and not only for fuel. It is used in paint. It is used in plastic. What is the most common form that we see? Oil. Plastic. Every plastic is essentially oil. That is why one of the ways of curbing plastic pollution, what are they trying? They are trying to reverse engineer plastic back into oil. They are trying to reverse engineer plastic back into oil. Vaseline सुना है? What is it? What is Vaseline? Petroleum jelly. It is a petroleum product. It is a petroleum product. So oil is used in multiple industries. Okay, fertilizer, paint, बहुत सारे industries में chemicals. In many industries it is used. Clear till here, guys? Now see. So that is why with oil, नहीं food oil अलग होता है. Now see, so the oil is used in multiple sectors. यहाँ तक clear है, guys? Now see, so this happened, and because of this, inflation increased multifold. Inflation increased multifold. बहुत inflation आ गई. And if inflation is coming, eventually what will happen to employment? Will it increase or decrease? If very high inflation sustains for a very long time, it will not be good for the economy. Inflation is good only in the short term. Okay, because whatever concept we read, that was for the short term or a sustained level. Okay, that was for a sustained level. ये तो एक साल में within a few months it doubled. Within a few months, many of these things doubled. And you need to understand, 1970s, most of the things that exist in an economy, you talk about goods and services produced, no? Right now there are not much services. The term that we use, goods and services, is a very recent development. For a very, very long time, what existed? Goods existed. For a very, very long time, what existed? Goods existed. Goods and services is a very recent development. Got it here, guys? Now see. So that is why oil was even more disastrous. Got it here? Now see. So this write down. Eventually, it led to unemployment. Just write down a word here, we will look at it later. Stagflation. We just write down a word here, we'll look at it later, something called as stagflation. that is usually, but stagflation is an exception to that Phillips curve. What you're telling is, what you're telling is essentially Phillips curve, and stagflation is an exception to that. Why does it happen? We'll discuss later. Clear till here, guys? Now see. Now again, two questions should come to our mind. Why exactly? We understand the political aspect of it, but let's try to understand why exactly did it happen? Why exactly? How can we explain it economically? Why did it happen and how did we come out of it? Why did it happen and how did we come out of it? Got it till here? Please write on the first. देख लिया मैंने, टाइम देख लिया, दुखी मत होना तुम. नहीं होते, बैठा देते हैं. जल्लाद बोल रहा है आपको. चल लिखो. First write down why did it happen. Why did it happen? Or why did the crisis happen? 1970s की बात कर रहे हैं. We're talking about 1970s. Why did the crisis happen? We're talking about 1970s. Okay, 1970s की बात कर रहे हैं. We're talking about 1970s. Why did the crisis happen? Okay, please write down. Due to the rise in input prices, due to the sudden rise in input prices, due to the sudden rise in input prices, due to the sudden rise in input prices equal to अवतार का टाइम. 5 मिनट रुक जा, अब इतना वेट कर लिया तो. ड्यू टू दी sudden rise in prices, due to the sudden rise in prices, sudden rise in input prices equal to production became inefficient. I'll leave you at sharp at 8, don't worry. Okay, I'll leave you sharp at 8. Production became inefficient equal to the labor had to be laid off to cut costs. The labor had to be laid off. Layoff सुना होगा guys? Layoff, Layoff. The labor had to be laid off, Laid, laid off to cut costs. The labor had to be laid off to cut costs. Full stop. Hence, the growth stagnated. In bracket write down. Since inventories lying unsold. I hope you understand the term inventory. Since inventories were lying unsold. Unsold, बिना बिके हुए. Since inventories were lying unsold. Why were they lying unsold? Because the price had doubled, but the income did not double. Inflation will be a problem only if you don't have the requisite money. Okay, if you don't have the requisite money. As long as you have the money, inflation is not a problem for you. Got it till here, guys? Then bracket close. As well as we had high inflation. Please underline the word stagnant and inflation. And if you combine these two, what is the word that you get? Stagflation. Okay, when you combine these two, you get stagflation. So stagflation is a condition where you have stagnant growth, therefore Employment is there or not? No. Okay, so there is unemployment. Okay, so there is unemployment as well as inflation is also high. Got it till here? Please write down. This was known as stagflation. This was known as stagflation. This was known as stagflation. Just write down the answer to the question. We'll discuss this tomorrow. But next question लिख दीजिए. How did we come out of this? How did we come out of this crisis? How did we come out of this crisis? Question mark equal to Milton J. Friedman. Milton J. Friedman. Can you share your number? Milton J. Friedman. हाँ, मिल्टन जे फ्रीडमैन. दिस इज द सेम फेलो जो आपको बताया था इलीगल इमिग्रेशन वाला. ठीक है, दिस इज सेम फेलो.